this channel, we've utilized Noelle in so many ways that you're probably sick and tired of seeing my face at this point.
Sorry, my face is tired.
New Noelle with Furina, new Noelle Xilonen, Noelle Plunge Team, blah, blah, blah. Best Noelle teams that I've used this year. So I've decided that it's probably time to do a tier list of teammates that I utilize with Noelle and that I think you guys should try out as well. And we're gonna see that this kind of shapes up in some way that I didn't think was even possible. It's so perfect that I kind of lose myself as we go through this. And I just want you guys to check this one out, guys. So love y'all. Wait till the end. Let me know your thoughts about it. And I'll see you guys at the next one. And our tiers are gonna be obviously top tier, official knight. These are the characters that really make Noelle feel like she has graduated from wannabe knight to actual official knight. Second tier is amazing. These are great characters, really. You can kind of slot them in and out and feel really good about using them, whether you're a brand new player who's looking to pair someone with your early Noelle from the beginner banner, or if you're trying to maximize your Noelle DPS. These are some characters you should definitely look at. Then we have fine. These characters, maybe sometimes you want to put them in your party with Noelle. Maybe they're characters who can work in a Noelle team where you need to meet special requirements by doing maybe certain amounts of elemental damage to break different shields. They'll work pretty okay in a Noelle team, and they'll be pretty sizable with the amount of fun that you'll have in these teams as well. And they won't make you have to do some weird gameplay style swap between like what you would normally experience in a Noelle focused party. Meh, we have some characters who could, maybe force themselves into a Noelle team. Maybe they give you a little bit of a benefit for being in there in a Noelle party, but a lot of the times they kind of clash with what you want to be doing, which is like using your skills, swapping back into Noelle, and then just kind of going ham. And then the not my favorite is like maybe you can use them if you really want to. And the rest of the characters that don't fit into any of this criteria, because there's so many characters in Genshin, those ones will probably just not be tiered at all, right? There's no reason to be using Noelle inside of like a, I don't know, a Lisa team or something like that. I don't know, some character like that. So the first one we're going to touch on here is going to be the first character you get access to in Genshin, which is going to be the Traveler. Now the Traveler's got different elements to them now, right? The newest one, Pyro Traveler, we had Hydro Traveler and Fontaine. If you're a new player, you're going to unlock different elements for the Traveler as you sort of experience the game. But the one that we want to kind of mainly focus on is going to be mainly the Electro Traveler or the Dendro Traveler. The Electro Traveler is going to give you a little bit of energy back, and I actually use the Electro Traveler to sort of early on fix Noelle's like energy requirements, so you could utilize that one there, or you could also use the Geo Traveler for a very similar function. So between those two, they're pretty decent. They're not like going to make her an amazing character. You can utilize them very early on though, so they're kind of in the fine tier between those two characters. The Geo Traveler does like to battery pretty well with the elemental skill. The elemental burst kind of traps things in there. You can utilize that, especially if you're a newer player. The Electro Traveler with the battering potential of actually giving energy to characters is pretty okay as well. I don't know if I want to put them in fine or meh. I'm kind of stuck in between the two of them, between these two elements. I'm going to do probably just like a meh. Like they're fine, but they're kind of meh. There's going to be better characters to utilize in a Noelle party than just like the Traveler is. However, they're not going to be like not in my favorite. They're okay at the end of the day. They're just not like the craziest things. You probably don't see these characters used that much with Noelle anymore outside of like a newer account. Now, a character a lot of you guys are going to be able to gain access to pretty early on because she's one of the original Genshin 4 stars is actually going to be Fischl. Now, Fischl in a Noelle team does do a lot of things that Noelle is very happy with. They don't really have a lot of synergy together, but the way that Fischl works, and she works with the other teammates that Noelle likes to work with as well, like other Hydro characters, which we'll get to, they work very well together. Fischl likes to stay off the field, right? Summon Oz, do damage that way, and just kind of give extra energy to your party, right, over time with Oz, and also do damage over time with Oz. And you'll be getting stronger with your Fischl over time if you're a new player, because you'll be able to get cool stuff like Undone Be Thy Sinful Hex, which works pretty well with Noelle as well, because, well, an electro-related elemental reaction, that also works with Crystallization, which Noelle's going to be able to do a lot when she's on field with her elemental burst. And then once you get constellations for her as well, you get all the way up to Constellation 6. This is going to add even more damage for that Noelle and Fischl archetype because of the bonus attacks that you're going to be doing with Oz from C6 on your Fischl while your Noelle's out there just slamming things down with sweeping time. So Fischl is going to be an amazing character, and I actually really do like the way that she is utilized in a Noelle party. She works very well with her. I don't think I'd put her in the official knight tier. Honestly, actually, I think I might put her up there. I'm trying to think of all the off-field sub DPS characters that I do with a Noelle. You know what? No, she's not like in a core Noelle team, but you can use her and she is very, very strong. So I'll put her in the amazing Noelle partner tier. They just work very well together because they don't really contradict what each other wants to do. They each all want to do their own thing, but they also happen to synergize with each other at the same time because they're not fighting for dominance on field or off field. Now, Bennett is going to be the other one we're going to cover here. Now, Bennett, this is going to be, listen, I'm biased because I hate playing Circle Impact. If you're brand new to Genshin Impact, Circle Impact is a nickname many of us has given to the way that you play the game with a Bennett in your party, which is his elemental burst, heal over time while your active character is in it, and a giant attack bonus based off of your Bennett's attack. He's going to be one of the best support characters that you can utilize in the game because he can both heal and buff your damage for a lot of characters at the same time. But when we talk about Noelle, listen, I'm talking about Noelle and Bennett. Do they really work well together? In a way, yes, because Noelle, while a lot of you might be like, oh, she scales off of defense, she scales off of attack for damage still. The way that you scale off of defense is that she translates a portion of her defense stat to attack. However, the multipliers on her skills are still attack. That being said, though, a lot of top tier sort of Noelle teams, they don't really care about the Bennett healing. Noelle can heal for you already for the entirety of your party, and there's other ways to buff up Noelle's damage outside of giving her even more attack on top of the ridiculous amount of attack that she can already hit. This is a character that can already hit like 5,000 plus attack, and so constraining yourselves to Bennett in there, while he can be okay, at the end of the day, he's not my favorite. I kind of want to put him in meh tier, but there's not a ton of different Noelle teams where it's like, oh, Bennett's like, he's super cool here. If you get him early on, you can utilize him, get that attack bonus for your Noelle, especially if you don't have Constellation 1 for your Bennett yet, you're a new player, because you do need to be above a certain amount of HP to get that attack benefit. Noelle can help you go up above that HP threshold and still get that attack bonus, and they'll be pretty good at the start of the game. But at the end of the day, not my favorite. Like I said, I'm going to be a little biased here. One of the first Geo characters that a lot of us paired Noelle with is Ningguang, and Ningguang is a sort of quick swap support sub DPS burst damage character. She wants to come out, drop her Jade screen, do damage that way, blow it up with her elemental burst, and then launch like a giant charge attack once you have access to some of her constellations, like Constellation 6, giving you even more Star Jades to make her charge attack do even more damage. Another thing that she does work well with Noelle with 4 is because she is Geo, so you're going to be getting that Geo resonance, which is going to reduce the enemy's Geo resistance as well. And you also do get a small amount of damage bonus if you use her elemental skill, swap back to Noelle at the end of the day, and walk through the Jade screen. You can give your Noelle a 12% Geo damage bonus that way as well. But that being said, well, at the start they were pretty awesome together, and you really were looking for like another Geo character, get Geo resonance and stuff. There's so many characters that work better with Noelle than Ningguang does. They don't really hate each other, so to speak, and they're okay together. There's just going to be so many more characters that are you'll see in the amazing and official knight tier that I'll put Ningguang in the fine tier. She's okay as a partner, but there's just going to be better characters for them. For example, I actually kind of like this because I would use Ningguang over Geo Traveler. Now I would probably use Ningguang over Electro Traveler now. So far this is kind of even, and I didn't plan this out. This is looking pretty good. This actually wasn't kind of crazy. Okay, and speaking of off field here real quick, we're not going to go super crazy in it, but Kaeya, I do want to talk about this if you're a newer player. Kaeya is going to be a fantastic character for a lot of new players out there because he can do off field damage just like Fischl does. However, unlike Fischl, one of the things that he wants to do, or one of the popular strategies that he has to as a cryo character, Cryo and Electro is Superconduct that lowers physical resistance, but your Noelle's not really going to be doing physical damage. She does Geo damage. And then Water in Cryo freezes things for crowd control, but Noelle's like a knight, right? She's a Claymore user. And so if you hit a frozen character with a Claymore or a Geo move, It's going to break that freeze and cause shatter and do a very tiny amount of damage. In shatter form, you're not going to be building Noelle for elemental mastery. So you can use him early on. He's going to be pretty decent. Just have him running around as your 4th character. But he kind of isn't the craziest thing. It doesn't really work super well with Noelle's kit. So I'm going to put him in my not my favorite tier. Another early character that you can gain access to, you can still get this character for free, is going to be Xiangling. And Xiangling is honestly... she's 80 on this account. That's funny. She is honestly like a pretty great character in a Noelle party under certain circumstances, because Xingling's whole shtick is that she does, just like Fischl, the vast majority, almost the entirety of her damage while off of the field, whether you're using her elemental burst with Pyronado or using her elemental skill Guoba attack that can also leave behind a little pepper for your Noelle to pick up as well to further boost her attack by 10%, or you can pick it up on Xiangling too, it doesn't really matter. But what you really get the benefit of with Xiangling in your party is in these situations where, well, you need to be breaking cryo shields or hydro shields, you need some sort of pyro application. You can have Xiangling as a fantastic applier of the pyro element off the field, who also offers up huge big damage, which is great for Noelle in a lot of these certain circumstances. A lot of the time though, you want to utilize Xiangling in some sort of team with like Bennett to further boost her attack and find ways to make Xiangling the star of the show, whereas in a Noelle team, a lot of the times you're making Noelle the star of the show. But there's going to be a couple of big crazy characters that we're going to talk about that work really well with both making Noelle the star of the show and buffing her damage, while also buffing up the damage of your sub DPS off-field characters. So when we take a look at where should we put Xiangling, I actually kind of think that she's in the amazing tier under certain circumstances. Now, you don't want to just throw her in, right? Oh, Noelle, Ningguang, Xiangling, Fischl. Actually, you could probably do that early on and that'd be a pretty good team. So these two off-field DPS, I'll put her in the amazing side category here. A lot of the times you're going to see a Xiangling national team, but you can also utilize her in a lot of certain Noelle circumstances if you have the damage buffers that we'll talk about in the future. And she also does happen to work very well early on. And funny enough, if I'm remembering correctly, I do think that like in 1.0, my early on team was Fischl, Xiangling, Noelle, and then like one other character. It might have even been Ningguang or the Traveler, honestly, and that worked out pretty well. Wouldn't you know what, another 1.0 4-star is gonna make the list with Xingqiu. Listen, we all know him, we all love him for off-field hydro application, which is mainly what you're going to be getting from him as a new player. However, as you invest in your Xingqiu, he is able to do a pretty significant amount of damage while off field in something like the Emblem of Severed Fate set built for energy regen, so you can battery your team with something like a sacrificial sword build. But he also does do a couple of other things. Now, he has the ability to give your teammates damage reduction and a little bit of healing as well from Guha Sword or Rain Cutter. And having that damage reduction is pretty good. So what Xingqiu is going to be able to do is help batter your team a little bit, help your Noelle a little bit, because he does bring a large amount of particles with his elemental skill. And he's going to make your shields not have more HP, but he's going to make those shields last longer due to the damage reduction that you'll have from having access to these swords floating around you. So if you're someone who wants to pump out as much damage as you could possibly want from your Noelle, and maybe have like a slightly lower HP shield, he can help counteract that with the damage reduction. He's also going to apply a pretty significant amount of damage off the field as well, which makes him a pretty powerful partner for someone like Noelle in a lot of these team compositions. And as you can see, we're going to be putting him right in the amazing tier because, well, you have Noelle in your party, the official knight, and then you also have Xingqiu, who can do a lot of great stuff off field applying hydro, and you can also pair that with someone like Xiangling, or you can pair it with Fischl. You can get electrolyzer, you can get vaporized, and a lot of your early on set party, he was probably my fourth now that I think about it, in my 1.0 team. These four can work really well together, so you have a lot of very powerful options early on, and these can still work later on as well. And I'm seeing now that basically we've only covered 4-star characters to utilize with Noelle, and well, that's because they're pretty good. And as we've moved away from 1.0 4-stars and moving into the 5 stars, you're gonna see that, well, only a certain subsect of characters are gonna really work with that girl, make her a real official knight though. One of the first big bads is Zhongli. Now Zhongli, listen, I have a love-hate relationship with Zhongli in a Noelle team. Love him for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's a Geo character. And he doesn't take that much, if any, field time at all. Why is that cool? Well, you get the Geo Resonance, right? You get the Geo Resist down from Geo Resonance, and then his Giant Shield is also going to give you Geo Resonance down. Actually, it's all Resonance down, but Geo Resonance down so your Noelle can do more damage, or your Fischl off field as well. So they pair very well for that reason. You get a lot of resistant shred for your Noelle and other teammates with Zhongli in your party. That being said, though, that's kind of where he is, and that's kind of where he ends in a Noelle team. If you're going to be using Zhongli in a Noelle squad, he's basically there for the resistance down shred. Yeah, his shield's going to be there as well, but your shield's going to be eventually pretty sizable on Noelle. Your DPS and your shield strength are going to kind of max each other, and you're not going to really need the Zhongli giant shield in a Noelle team. So I'm not going to put him in the official knight tier. He is pretty good there. I know it's kind of sacrilegious. I don't even know if I want to put him in the amazing tier anymore, because at the end of the day, if I can find another Geo character to get Geo resistance shred from having Geo resonance, then honestly, if the shield doesn't matter from Zhongli's shield, he's kind of just like a walking 20% resistance shred again. So I'm going to kind of it feels wrong to put him with Ningguang, because I think that I would rather have him in my party. Maybe we'll do that in my party than Ningguang, just because he doesn't take any field time. He's very easy to use. But a lot of the times I don't put him in a Noelle party, even though you could. It'll work pretty well there. I usually just put his giant shield in my second Abyss party, or whatever it is that I'm doing, because I already have one with Noelle. I don't need two giant shields, and their kits kind of overlap each other a little bit there. Raiden Shogun. I love using this character in a Noelle party. Listen, we talked about the Electro Traveler and other characters who can battery your Noelle as well. Raiden Shogun works so well with Noelle for a couple of reasons. Now, Noelle has a very lengthy duration on her elemental burst with sweeping time, especially once you're Constellation 6. This thing can last upwards to like 25 seconds. If you defeat enemies, you can extend it 15 base plus another 10, one for each enemy defeated. And then you have Raiden Shogun, who wants to pop out her elemental burst every once in a while. It's got an 18-second cooldown, and her burst duration while on field lasts for 7 seconds. She's gonna be able to do a tremendous amount of damage while on field, and she's gonna do a very significant amount of energy generation for your Noelle and maybe anyone else who's got a very Greed Lord high cost elemental burst in your party as well. She also is able to buff up, you know, a little bit of damage off field as well. If you have a couple of different constellations for her, right, you can get a little bit of 30% attack bonus. But a lot of the times, Raiden Shogun's gonna be able to work really well with Noelle, fill up that elemental burst gauge for you, do some damage off field with her elemental skill, come on field for a short amount of time, do a large amount of upfront burst damage while she's on field for 7 seconds, fill your burst back up for your Noelle, for your Furina, for whoever else might be in your team, right? At the end of the day, I really actually do like using Raiden Shogun with Noelle. It was one of the most used characters that I did use her with. And since she has the ability to not only do a large amount of damage and have fun that way, but also just pair them together and make the energy needs on your Noelle basically vanish overnight. And because she is Electro, which happens to work well with a lot of different elements like Dendro nowadays, and Dendro has no reactions. I know it's weird with Geo at all. I do find myself every once in a while doing some non-hydro teams with Noelle with Raiden Shogun. I did this back in the day, right? We'll talk about it, where you do like an Aggravator or a Quicken team to really buff up the damage of your Raiden Shogun while having all the shielding and all the healing and all the whatever you need to make your party not fall apart with Noelle as well. And they share field time pretty well equally. As soon as the Noelle burst wears off, or you think it's about to wear off, you need more elemental burst gauge energy, you swap it to Raiden Shogun, eliminate a bunch of monsters, fill up the energies for everyone in your party, and then just kind of rinse and repeat with big shields and big heals off of your Noelle as well. So I almost want to drop Raiden Shogun down here, but I like using Raiden Shogun more than Fischl. They don't fit in the exact sort of same Noelle teams. They're different. But I think if you tried out a Raiden Shogun Noelle team, and maybe if you stick with the rest of this video and find out a couple other characters who might sneak up in here, you might have fun with her too. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, 4-star man Gorou. Now, Gorou, He's a fantastic Noelle partner, but in a very specific team composition and only with very specific setups. And he really excels once you get him to Constellation 6, because at Constellation 6, you can give your Noelle a bunch of bonus Geo damage and crit damage on top of that. So Gorou's going to be a hit or a miss here depending on what it is that you want to do. Now he's got a big buff, because if you want to just sort of get in there and do Geo damage, all I'm going to be doing is Geo damage, he makes her pretty much an official knight. He's one of her best partners at Constellation 6. If you don't have him Constellation 6, he's still pretty all right. He's still fine. You put a Favonius Warbow on him. You can buff up Noelle's defense, and then you utilize the Elemental Burst of Noelle after you buff up Noelle's defense. But once you're Constellation 6, he becomes a core part of the Mono Geo team. So C6, official knight, not C6, probably in like the fine category, the fine tier. He's okay this way. He does do a little bit of healing with some other constellations, etc. too. But at C6, he's great. I'll put him there. But just remind yourselves that if you're using your Gorou, you're limited to triple Geo team composition. So that might be something that might... Actually, I'm going to make him drop down a tier for that. I'm going to put him in the amazing tier just because he's limited, right? He makes it so like you might not be able to utilize all these other partners that we're talking about simply because you want to have triple Geo team even if you are a C6 Gorou, which might limit the other party members that you can put in your party if you're using a Gorou Noelle team. Let's talk about more Geo characters. Now, Albedo is basically just a set it and forget it. I'll put an elemental skill down. I'll maybe pop my elemental burst every once in a while. He was the old adage off-field Geo damage sub DPS. Now, is this a good thing to have nowadays? Where does this rate? Now, on the pluses for Albedo, he doesn't fight for field time. He just kind of sits there. He does his own stuff. He's got some supportive artifact setups that you can use to boost his own damage or boost your party's damage as well. Makes him pretty good there. He works pretty well with Noelle for that reason. But that being said, he kind of can go wherever. I'm not going to put him in the top tier though. I will put him up in the amazing tier. He's part of that Geo team composition. And the Geo, the triple Geo, Mono Geo team composition is a pretty favored one, but he's got a lot of other characters who are very similar to him nowadays. We're gonna go over those right now in sort of like a chain gun fashion for you as well. We also have Kachina, who can kind of do the same sort of thing. Kachina can also wear the new Notlon support set to buff up the damage of your Noelle and other characters in the party when you're doing reactions by 40% as well. Does she do as much damage as Albedo? No. Does she have easy access because she's a 4-star? 100%. Is Albedo's damage, sort of like limited around some of the more limited 4-star event weapons? Possibly, right? So they're pretty good together as well. And then there's one more off-field DPS Geo character, which is going to be Chiori. Chiori's pretty cool. You can also make her a little bit more on-field DPS. She does work with characters like Zhongli and Ningguang, these characters who have like Geo constructs, which I think is kind of a dead mechanic at this point in time, right? And also not my favorite. Oh, that's the other thing, Geo constructs with Albedo. This flower always breaks. I hate it. I don't think Chiori has that problem. But that being said, all three of these characters, very nice off-field sub DPS characters that are Geo that will help you with your Noelle. They're going to work well for two reasons. You get that Geo resonance, and then they also don't fight for field time. Your Noelle can just be out there, do whatever it is that she wants to do. So those are going to be some very nice characters. One of the most game-changing ones is going to be Xilonen. Now, Xilonen does a lot of very powerful things, even at Constellation 0 for Noelle. One of the best things that she does do is she's going to be making very good amount of particles and energy regeneration for your Noelle. You can also utilize the Favonius Sword to help fill up the elemental burst for your Noelle as well as other team members. Noelle also is a very slow character. There's no movement speed buffs in these Geo teams, so you can get around very fast with the elemental skill here as well. The elemental burst is kind of fine. It gives you a little bit of extra healing, but really what we're here for is this is going to be one of the few ways to get a big Geo resistance down shred from her elemental skill, which is pretty awesome here. Now you're also able to get not just Geo resistance down, but also another element of your choice as well, based on the team composition of your party. So maybe using Xilonen as your second Geo character at Constellation 0, so you can get Geo Resistant Shred and then Resistant Shreds of a couple other elements, is going to be a fantastic idea for you. She also facilitates energy regeneration for you. Just like with our lovely Kachina, she can wear the Scroll of the Hero of the Cinder City set 4-piece bonus, which means I have to put her in Official Knight. And this is why I sort of have hampered the Mono Geo team. I know Mono Geo, Triple Geo lovers, if you're down there, this is why I've kind of rated them a little bit lower, is because you have characters like Xilonen who allow you to maximize your Noelle, but also she doesn't limit the other characters you can kind of put in your party, unless you're going for a Triple Geo setup. And I like the non-Triple Geo setups better, because there's a lot of things that this game likes to throw at you nowadays with different elements. You have to use this, you have to use that. So it's because of the sheer flexibility, while also sort of fine-tuning all the needs and wants of Noelle, buffing her damage, buffing the ability for you to get an elemental burst back so you could fit more damage on your artifact setups in your Noelle build. That just makes Xilonen like an official knight setup for Noelle. Someone that I like to use a lot with my Noelle teams as well is going to be Yunjin. Yunjin was someone that I literally used all of the time with my Noelle team, regardless of who else was on it, until I got access to Xilonen. Now, the big thing that you do with Yunjin is you can buff up the damage of normal attacks that your active character does with her elemental burst. You basically activate Yunjin's elemental burst, and it's going to allow your active character to get bonus damage based on Yunjin's defense up to 30 times. It still is going to use the damage percent bonuses, the crit chance and crit damage of your active character. So in this case, it would be Noelle. So you get to build your Yunjin for some energy recharge, a large amount of just defense percent, and then you just get to add a substantial amount. We're talking like thousands and thousands and thousands of damage to every single normal attack that your Noelle is going to be doing, which makes her one of the coolest characters to pair with in a Noelle party. And she also doesn't really rely on having other characters in your team as well. She does work well on a Mono Geo team. You can pair her right with Albedo, with Gorou. One of the old school ones was like Noelle, Gorou, Yunjin, Albedo, or Noelle, Gorou, Yunjin, Zhongli, or Chiori. And she works very well in that setup. She also does get a small damage bonus if you're using more than just Geo characters. So she's pretty flexible in that right as well. I do love her for that reason, but I'm gonna have to rate her. She's not equal to Xilonen. I'm gonna have to rate her in the same tier as all these other ones. So all these old Geo characters, they're all gonna end up in the same sort of little area there. And one cool thing about her as well is she does have the breaking conventions, which is going to give herself a little bit more of a damage bonus added to her Cliff Breaker's banner buff if there's different elemental types. So if you want to go with something early on, right, maybe you got your Yunjin and your Noelle, you want to do like an electro character and a pyro character, or a hydro character and a cryo character, you're going to get a little bit of a buff to her elemental burst there. And as far as constellations go, unlike Gorou, she doesn't really need any kind of crazy constellations. There's no constellations like, oh, this character is 30% better now. Yeah, at Constellation 2, you can get like damage percent bonus of 15%, which is fine. It's okay. It's a little bit of a damage bonus. You also get some attack speed of 12% at Constellation 6, but you don't need any of those things. She's fine at Constellation 0. One of my favorite characters to utilize with her is Yelan. Now, Yelan is very similar in the sort of aesthetic of Xilonen, where Yelan's gonna add a little bit of speed to your maneuverability with Lingering Lifeline, and she's also gonna be pretty good at providing particles to your Noelle and other team members, because Lingering Lifeline is a pretty small cooldown, 10 seconds. It makes a decent amount of particles as well, and then one of her best weapons is the Favonius Warbow on top of that, so you can also feed some of these particles from the Warbow into whoever you desire. A lot of the times it's going to be your Noelle. So very similar to Xilonen in that aspect. And then instead of like Xilonen, where Xilonen's got resistant shred, you also are going to have Yelan for damage percent bonus during depth Clarion dice from her Ascension passive, which you get even at Constellation 0. And you are also going to get some very sizable off-field DPS due to the fact that she's just going to be doing HP scaling damage 15 out of the 18 seconds of every fight. So you're gonna have this almost one up 100% of the time. You're gonna be missing 3 seconds out of 18 seconds. It's a crazy amount of off-field damage. They work incredibly well together. She's gonna be one of the best off-field damage dealers, support category characters. She goes right in the official Knight tier. That is some chef kiss team right there. And while we're in Hydro, let's just talk about it, okay? Probably the best teammate for Noelle in the game currently available, right? Furina excels when people can lose HP and gain HP in quick succession, which is amazing. And who's better to do that than Noelle? Every swing of your sword, you're healing for a large amount of damage. You're going to be gaining fanfare stacks like crazy. These fanfare stacks will be buffing up everyone in your party, both on field and off field, which means that works incredibly well with Noelle, because not only are you buffing up Noelle, but like we've been talking about, Noelle loves sub DPS off field damage dealers. People who just stay off the field and do damage. Furina is going to be able to buff up those people too. So Noelle is going to allow you to gain a tremendous amount of fanfare stacks. So your whole party's getting damage boosted to the moon. Noelle's healing everyone, so everyone's still at full life. You don't have to worry about a healer in your party. And she's just out there driving and doing a crazy amount of damage. The downside to Furina is that, like Noelle, Furina can be very sort of needy on the energy recharge part of the game. But that is why when we were talking about characters in our Noelle parties, we made sure to bring up characters who provide a lot of energy recharge to your team. Characters like Raiden Shogun, Xilonen, Yelan, all of these characters can be built to help give energy to your entire party, meaning that the shared weakness that Noelle and Furina have, needing a bunch of energy regen so they can get access to their awesome bursts on time, their best teammates help them do that. Help them shred resistances, help them boost damage, do bonus damage off of the field, or like Raiden Shogun has like a second window or 7 seconds where they come in and do gigantic damage themselves as well. So Furina is going to be the best character to pair with your Noelle. If you got access to Furina, you're a brand new player, maybe get access to Constellation 1 on your Noelle so your healing's not RNG anymore, and just kind of start working on your first team that way. And I think you'll be able to just kind of close your eyes and beat the game, more or less. You've kind of beaten Genshin Impact at that point. It's one of the craziest things you can do. One of the weird ones I want to talk about is going to be Yae Miko. Now, Yae Miko is one of those characters that I've always kind of wanted to utilize, and I did find a little bit of love for her in some weird Noelle teams here. Now, when you utilize someone like Yae Miko in a Noelle party, she's very similar to someone like Fischl, who doesn't need to be on the field to do damage. Unlike Fischl, though, she does take up a lot more field time, because when you cast your elemental burst, you have to put your turrets back up and you have to dash around, and there's a lot of animations for it. And Yae Miko's like biggest weakness to her kit. There's a lot of just animations that just take up too much time. And while she's usable in a lot of team compositions, and actually if you've checked out a video released, I don't know, a week ago or so, there's a team that I use Noelle and Yae Miko in together. It's fine. So I guess I'll put her in the all caps fine tier. It's okay, but it's nothing super crazy in that way. So that's a thing. Now here's a character that I probably didn't see coming. I want to quickly talk about Candace real quick. Now Candace, I've been able to play it. I personally don't have it. Candace as a partner for Noelle is terrible, and I would not do it. But you can do it under one circumstance, and that is where you get Constellation 6 Candace, where you can just build a giant HP Candace, and well, when your active player does normal attacks, they're gonna do more damage, and it's gonna be hydro damage based off of Candace's max HP. So this is something that you can do. It's counted as elemental burst damage, though. It's not counted as normal attack damage. It's fine, but it's not like my favorite thing, man. Like, this is kind of just whatever. It's okay. I've tried it before. I think it's fine. I don't think it's, at the end of the day, the craziest thing. And I see there's a lot of Candace Noelle fans out there. They're big loving it. I kind of want to put it in not my favorite. I will say this, though, is that Candace is hydro element as well. And so if you want to pair her with, you know, someone like Furina, you can get that double hydro bonus, right? Get the bonus HP for your hydro characters to do more damage, etc. But she just is like, it's just like, I'd rather use Yelan. I'd rather use Xingqiu for the damage reduction and the damage that way. Candace just doesn't really do a whole lot. I'm gonna put her in not my favorite tier like whatsoever. I almost didn't even want to bring her up, but I know that, listen, I'm not trying to throw shade at the Noelle Candace users, but I think shade's been thrown. Now this is gonna be a weird one for you guys here. Nahda, Noelle teams, Geo, Dendro, not friends, don't actually interact with each other whatsoever, but you can utilize that to your advantage in some team compositions. I've utilized Nahda in a Noelle team, and I've done like a Nahda Hyper Bloom team where you just have someone who applies a lot of Hydro like Xingqiu, someone who's built for just detonating the blooms with Hyper Bloom, someone like, you know, Kuki Shinobu or some big elemental mastery character. And you just have Noelle as your driver who just heals up over and over and over. It makes a very safe Hyper Bloom team. You don't get a lot of buffs to Noelle to maximize her damage like you would in like a Wet Rock, Furina, Yelan, you know, Xilonen Noelle team, but you can make like a very safe and efficient Hyper Bloom strategy, and it's very ease of access. If you have access to Nahda as a free-to-play player, a new player, you can utilize something like Noelle, Nahda as your only 5-star, throw Xingqiu in there, and then Kuki Shinobu. And I don't actually hate this team, so specifically for that team, and specifically with that setup, I would put both of them in the fine category. You can make a Hyper Bloom Noelle setup and it's okay. Don't just look at this list and be like, wow, Nahda, Noelle, how are they fine? Kuki Shinobu, Noelle, that doesn't make any sense. It is literally just like that setup alone. Let's move you down to meh, right? If you were to just have these 4 characters, Noelle, Nahda, Kuki Shinobu, these 4, you could make a pretty interesting setup there. And is it the best Hyper Bloom team ever? No. Is it the safest one in a long time? Yes. There's like it's very similar to like the Eula Hyper Fridge Hyper Bloom team, except instead of Eula being your on-field driver doing damage and freezing and shattering things, you have Noelle who's just going to be there shielding and keeping your team full HP. You never have to worry about Kuki Shinobu dying. You can give her a shield. You can heal her back up with your Noelle. And these characters are all kind of just like great together in that form and in that fashion. So I'm going to put them both in the fine category there. Then we have one more, which is going to be Xiannyun, who is the Cloud Retainer. And this is going to be a very unique team composition that you can utilize with Noelle. Now, Noelle is very good at doing a couple of things. Being able to stack a ton of attack because you stack a ton of defense and getting to like 5,000 plus attack. You also have the ability to just build crit chance and crit damage on her as well. And y'all might know at this point in time, Xiannyun does one really cool thing, which is allow people to just plunge attack no matter what. And plunging attack multipliers are very high in Genshin Impact, especially in some of these old Claymore characters like Noelle. So if you don't have something crazy like the Red Horn Stone Thresher, which adds that damage to normal and charge attacks, right? Not plunging attacks, but normal and charge attacks, you can just try to make a Noelle that's got a ton of attack and defense, a ton of crit chance, a ton of crit damage, pop the Elemental Burst, and just utilize someone like Xiannyun in it. And it's a totally separate team composition, kind of, in a lot of circumstances, especially like Constellation Zero. But you can do something like Furina, Noelle, Xiannyun, and then, you can't do C0 Xilonen, maybe like Yelan or something, right? And just get a bunch of damage % bonus there and just plunge attack over and over with your Noelle, hit for hundreds of thousands of damage, and do cool things that way. I think I would put her in the official night. I would run this over probably Triple Geo just because it's fun that way. You get to do a lot more flexible stuff with a Xiannyun team, and that's kind of what I like in my Noelle teams is fun and flexibility. And like I said, I might be a little personally biased as the Mono Geo thing. I'm tired of using Mono Geo and being like, oh, my flowers from Albedo got blown up. Oh, I'm just doing Geo damage to everything. There's too many things that require to use XYZ element in the game, and just forcing Noelle into this triple quadra Geo team. It's fine when you're able to do it, and it works real well when you're able to do it, but it's not as flexible, and it seems to get punished a lot more with whatever Hoyoverse is doing when designing content and characters nowadays. If you go ahead and look at this list, though, I think I kind of like it. You can see Noelle, Furina, Raiden Shogun, Xilonen, Yelan. Yeah, all these characters on the top, they're very flexible. They offer everything you'd want in a Noelle party, whether it's energy regeneration or off-field damage or big burst on-field damage with very minimum uptime on field time or just resistance shred or damage percent bonuses. They're all there. And then you have the amazing where you kind of go into either the multiple Geo characters with Gorou, Yunjin, Chiori, Kachina, Albedo, or you go into the elemental flexibility, right? I kind of like how this turned out, actually. It's not like Mono Geo is rated higher than the other 4-star options. It's either you pick a couple of Geo, you pick a couple non-Geo, you can get more Geo, or you can go some more non-Geo and have off-field sub-DPS characters defined. This is probably the best Noelle list for teammates I think I've ever seen in my entire life, actually. This might be the best tier list I've ever designed. I see this as an absolute win. You guys let me know about this down below. I think we might be doing some new kind of content, some non-gacha content in the future. Let me know how you feel about that. Subscribe for more stuff if you like seeing my face, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.